Hey, you're back at the Faculty Factory podcast, and I'm Kim Skorupski here at Hopkins looking at Dr. Beatriz Tapia. Dr. Beatriz Tapia is the Interim Associate Dean of Faculty Affairs and an Associate Professor in the Primary Community Core of the Integrated Specialty Units at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley School of Medicine. Did I get that close to right, Beatriz?
You got it right. And in Texas, we do things big. So that title just, you could tell that we're from Texas because we go big.
I love it. I love it. And rightly so, because when your name started popping up all over on my GFA, the AAMC GFA, our group on faculty affairs, which is my professional society home, I know you are very active in the steering committee and leading. And I saw your name and people said, yes, you have to have Dr. Tapia on the podcast. I love the work you're doing. And I'm especially excited that thank you very much, because I know it's no easy task, have led the third iteration, so the second follow-up of the GFA trends. So those of us who've been around for eons remember Dr. Paige Morahan et al. Published the first research on this GFA Group on Faculty Affairs trends in 2002. Then Dr. Roberta Sanino et al. Did a follow-up in 2010. And COVID pushed your work back a little bit, but thank you for doing this one coming out soon. And actually, by the time this episode drops, you will have been presenting at a wonderful webinar talking all about the new trends. So thank you, first of all, again, for this work. I know it's not easy, it's tough. So thank you for all your sacrifices in service to our community and in service to the best faculty in the entire galaxy. So thank you and congratulations.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. Thank you for that kind introduction. And yes, we are really excited to be doing the third iteration of groups of faculty affairs. It's really defining the roles of faculty affairs offices in this evolving academic medicine landscape. And this work could not be done, it's not solo. I have a great team. Actually, I'm part of the Texas Consortium for Faculty Success. We've come together as a group in Texas, and it is a subset of us that is working on this research to really enhance the evolution that offices of faculty affairs and development have had. So I have colleagues from Texas Tech, Coco Ong. I have Janet Williams from University of Texas Health Science Center, San Antonio, Johnson George from Texas Health Science Center at Houston, McGovern Medical School, Jennifer Alley. It's from, the Texas Christian University, Lisa Kane, our current GFA chair, who is the Associate Vice President of Faculty Affairs and Development, Robert Tillman from Baylor College of Medicine, and a colleague of mine who's serving as one of our great statisticians, Juan Carlos Lopez Alvaranga. And so, we came together really looking at wanting to know more and how we can see the current trends and landscapes of offices of faculty affairs. And so we had a couple of objectives for that. We wanted to describe current leadership structures for offices of faculty affairs and development, because we are seeing changes. We are seeing changes in terms of developments of new schools. And we saw an opportunity to really ask, who constructs an office of faculty affairs and what are the current roles and have they changed? And so we were very fortunate to do the survey, and that really helped us understand what is the current landscape of offices of faculty affairs. And so we reached out to a lot of individuals. Pretty much what we did was go ahead and retained most of the 2010 survey instrument, updated the questionnaire to include items to reflect offices of faculty affairs roles, support services, the size and employment of status of faculty. We paused here and really went in depth because a lot of the questions that we usually get, Kim, is, how much does it take to run an office of faculty affairs? How much staff do I need to have an Office of Faculty Affairs? How can I ask my current leadership that I need more support if I don't know what is the bench or the generalities that exist? So really excited to be showcasing that pretty soon. I must tell you that we had a great response rate. We, of the 157 medical schools that we reached out, because we did the survey for US medical schools. Of course, Canada, we love you, but we were intentional in having our medical schools and even asking our fellows in Puerto Rico. So we had 100 of the 157, we had 93 medical schools respond. So almost 60%. We're really fortunate that. Yeah, that's really cool, huh?
Congrats. It's probably due in large part to the Rock and Roll Hall of Famers you had as your co-authors, because everyone on your team has just really earned a wonderful reputation for being productive, being all in, being passionate, being good scientists. So again, congrats on leading that Hall of Fame group, because that's probably why you got such great response rate. It's just your reputations all precede you.
Oh, well, thank you. No, and I think it's the team, but it's really the urgency of having some data, because of the 10 years and how much has happened since to 2010. A lot has happened, and many of these things that have happened, we've been able to track. So I do want to give you some examples of how we've enriched data to share with our constituency. Everybody that's hearing, go ahead and look at our webinar, and our paper will be coming out soon. So what we did is we went ahead and developed we wanted to look at measures of success and effectiveness of offices of faculty affairs and faculty development. We wanted to report on new and anticipated roles and responsibilities and expectations and challenges really for the offices of faculty affairs. And so, as I said, this is a follow-up, and we had 3 parts to this survey. One asking about activities and functions of offices of faculty affairs, the performance evaluation of the office. This part that I shared with you is the office staffing and budget. And we really were intentional in removing the salaries to the budget, because sometimes we just put in, how much is accounted for salaries for personnel, but we really wanted to see the salary that took to really run an office of faculty affairs. And then we went ahead and had some open-ended responses for additional comments related to structures of offices of faculty affairs, and asked in the end, what do you think are the challenges that we'll have in the next 2 to 5 years? And so our colleagues are great. They're always helping us. We were able to get really great responses. And I think for me, one of the highlights is we've changed. We've really changed. When thinking about leadership in offices of faculty affairs and faculty developments, we've seen a trend of the majority being associate deans. From the 82 schools that responded this question, 42%, meaning 34 of them were associate deans, but then we had senior associate deans, vice provosts, but we also have directors and other individuals. So you could see that there's an array of individuals running these offices of faculty affairs. We also saw that there's a change going on, Kim, with certain states like mine changing the efforts of DEI. Even prior to this survey, we're seeing that diversity, equity, and inclusion topics have a standalone office, but we're seeing that some of them have been expanded or will come back to offices of faculty affairs and faculty development because of the current change. And so when we're talking about opportunities, we do see that DEI efforts are are important as it relates to healthcare delivery, to recognizing them in education. But how is it that our offices are going to support metrics of these for our faculty? And those are questions that, are going to be coming up, and there are terms for discussion for sure. But the data will give you who is doing this type of work in different offices of faculty affairs.
Yeah. And I imagine, of course, the big things of promotion. I mean, I guess we could roll up in hiring and recruiting and retention, wrapped up in the appointments and promotions sector, and then separately the career and professional development.
Yes.
Did your research show more, I guess, direct or what's the word I'm trying to say, more explicit maybe relationships between faculty development offices and HR or organizational development offices or external consultants? I'm curious how the development part has changed. Did you able to see any trending with that?
Oh, thank you for that question. Yes, definitely. So what we did in our survey was asked if your office was the primary contributor to this or had shared responsibilities. So as it relates to faculty development and programming responsibility, we have very interesting information. So we can see that mentoring programs, program for women's and minority, teaching, research, and clinical skill development were asked in the 2010, but we decided to expand some of the faculty development components. Like there is a lot of wellness initiatives that weren't asked in that survey. We also saw professionalism initiatives in offices of faculty affairs that were not asked in that survey, leadership development as well, along with coaching. And so those are new trends that we're seeing in offices of faculty development that were not measured in the 2010 survey. So towards your question, you're seeing that offices of faculty development have a much greater responsibility now with wellness, with promotion of our faculty as it relates to, coaching, really looking at faculty vitality, not only in their professional role, but thinking about how do they mentor others? How can we pull them up to be successful, not only in the area of their expertise, but even bridge out. Other components that came through our faculty development was mid-career individuals. Usually we focus on junior faculty. What are we doing with our mid-career faculty, and how can we motivate them to continue? And so those are components that were really explicit in our faculty when we asked. So this is qualitative data. So it's the text-free. We asked, you told us, and we're happy that you did.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Gosh, I can't wait for the webinar on Monday. And what we're going to do in the facultyfactory.org website is I'll link to whatever documents the GFA posts. And hopefully we can get, when your paper does drop, we'll link that into this episode, because I know this will be really important for people that want to look at this and use the data to have conversations with their vice deans, their deans, their provosts, whoever is responsible for overseeing the missions and the budgets of our offices. And thank you again so much for incorporating all these new responsibilities, because just like our faculty, I feel like, well, at least here at Hopkins, and a strong suspicion that across the country it's the same, faculty members writ large are always asked to do more with less.
Yes.
And it's everybody I know. I don't personally know one unit, division, department, center, office, whatever you want to call it, that's been given a boatload of cash and said, here, we're taking half your responsibilities and we're giving you 10 times more money, go nuts, have fun with it. It's quite the opposite. It's like, oh, in addition to everything you've been doing, now add on to, as you said, coaching and vitality and professionalism, misconduct and mid-career and late career and caregiving for our parents and our spouses and all these, ancillary personal, professional, employee related things, and then having to do that in a way that is palatable to our faculty members who are also being squeezed to do more and more and more with less. So I'm always just so inspired and love to learn how our neighbors and friends are doing this work and showing value and doing it without making it one more thing for faculty members to do or feel like they're guilty because they're not doing it.
And so, everything you shared is of importance to, offices of faculty affairs. And I think one of the major components that we're seeing as we're looking at the data is we're separating out public and private institution. And not to our surprise, there's no difference in terms of funding. You would think. I mean, and sometimes you're saying, well, maybe the faculty size will have a difference. We also categorize by faculty size. And faculty size, there is a couple of trends. If you're a newer school, then you have more funding. Or if you have a certain 1,500 or more faculty, you tend to have a little bit more funding. But that's, if you think about it, it's probably because of the newness of the school, or the other component is, you've already have an established base of faculty, and your faculty development or your faculty affairs is contingent probably not only on that office, but also in expanding to other offices. So support, meaning, right, the collaborative efforts. And so when we're looking at that and trying to find trends, I think it's fair to say when you see an Office of Faculty Affairs or Development, you just see one Office of Faculty Affairs and Development, because all of us, while there may be core functions of faculty affairs and development, it really depends on the school. And the importance of your mission and your vision, and is it a community-based school, or is it more of a research-intensive school? And so while we have not really kind of gotten a microscope to look at that for us, what we want to share with our research paper is that it does take a lot of individuals to help support our faculty. And I think that's really, in the end, our message is, if you want a robust faculty vitality program, you have to invest in your offices of faculty affairs and faculty development, because we've seen that recruitment and retention is a key component to faculty development and faculty affairs. We are seeing that opportunities, when they come to us, if we don't have development programs to support our faculty, they will be and may be recruited to a private sector or to a new entity.
Right. Yeah.
And so there's a lot of discussion here, Kim. I'm it's definitely.
So I just love this work so much, and you're reminding me of. I'm so happy that you said and emphasized how important the work we do is, and I'm heartened to remember that Daryl Kirch, the former president of AAMC, when I had him on the podcast and we talked, and years ago before COVID, some of us were like worried when do our deans even know who we are and what we're doing, and how do they value what we do, and how do we measure outcomes, and how do we demonstrate, can we tie back what we do really to recruiting and retaining and satisfaction and engagement and wellness and vitality and RVUs and paper production and grants and da. So having that conversation with him, he reminded me at the Council of Deans at the AAMC, he said the deans very much appreciate, they understand what offices of faculty affairs and offices of faculty development do. That our offices are the one-stop shop, overarching big umbrella. If you think of, like at Hopkins, we have Vice Dean for Clinical Affairs and Vice Dean for Research and Vice Dean for Education and Vice Dean for Operations and Vice Dean, all these layers, extraordinarily important jobs. And yet the Office of Faculty, the Vice Dean for Faculty, touches all of those. Because all the other things I just mentioned, the people who do that work, they're faculty. So everything rolls up into faculty. And that's why not only, we haven't even mentioned LCME, the liaison, Council Medical Liaison Committee on Medical Education, the LCME accreditation process that we all go through. It's not optional. We have to demonstrate that we are investing in the development of our faculty members. So I'm glad that you reminded us of the importance and the value of what we do. And my other thought was, I wonder if you, or what your wonderful team, and I also, a little diversion here. I remember years ago when Lisa King was talking about this consortium in Texas, and I was so envious because I'm a community builder and I love my whole mantra is to build community. And I was just jealous that you have this geographic, team. And I remember thinking, well, we should have, East Coast, West Coast, mid Central America. And anyway, maybe someday we can have those smaller geographic pods. But you and I were talking right before about you went to Learn, Serve, Lead.
Yes.
And you were mentioning the really interesting conversation during the business meeting about institutions, many of us expanding our footprint and acquiring other hospitals. I'm wondering if you, Beatrice, could put some of that, reality of the growing footprint of many academic medical centers and how that weighs into or parlays into these trends you're seeing. Like, have you had any suspicions, hypotheses, conversations around this? Can you conjecture anything from your research pointing, aligning with this trend of all of us kind of merging and acquiring others, and how that will influence our functions in our offices?
Yes, that's an excellent question, Kim. Thank you for asking that. That was one of the big topics at Learn, Serve, Lead, specifically amongst our groups of faculty affairs and other medical entities, in terms of health system. And some of the work is done by Elsa Milano, who's a colleague of ours now in Texas as well. And she actually is working on a paper on acquisition and mergers. And one of the main components that she has shared with us, and we had a tabletop discussion at Learn, Serve, Lead, was retaining the values of your schools and your mission. And really, before a merger, the big highlight was communication, because if you bring together a healthcare system with a medical school, at times these lines get blurred, and faculty vitality or faculty identity may be on the sideline, if you will, not intentionally, but the identity of a faculty may change if you are only in clinical practice. And are you a community-based practitioner? There's a lot of conversations and talking about promotion and tenure as these mergers happen. And what does that look like as we expand, if you will, the footprint of mergers and acquisitions? Is it a clinical educator track? And so a lot of conversation has been in terms of recognizing that these merger and acquisitions are a benefit, if you will, capitalizing on academic institutions in a healthcare system. Yet sometimes they grow so fast. They grow so fast and so quick that they may lose sight of the faculty and the value of academic